The night had fallen heavy over Riverton, a small American town tucked between the river and the endless woods. Rain poured in steady sheets, washing the streets with a cold, silver glow. The town looked quiet, but beneath the calm surface, something dark was stirring. On the edge of Maple Street, a house stood with its porch light flickering. Inside, silence ruled, except for the ticking of a clock. Then came a sound, a crash, a woman's gasp, and moments later, nothing. Only rain. By the time the neighbors called the police, the damage was already done. A woman lay lifeless on her living room floor. A kitchen knife glistened beside her, and blood spread slowly across the wooden boards. The woman was Angela Parker, a schoolteacher in her late 30s, loved by her students and respected in town. Her sudden, violent death shocked Riverton. Detective Claire Donovan arrived at the scene just past midnight. She was in her late 30s, sharp eyes under tired brows, and carried the weight of years spent chasing shadows. As she stepped into the house, her shoes clicked against the floor. The air smelled of iron and rain. Claire crouched near the body, studying the knife, the position of the victim's hands, the faint trail of blood that seemed to point toward the kitchen door. It wasn't random, she whispered to herself. Someone wanted her silent. Officer Ramirez, a young cop eager to prove himself, stepped forward. Neighbors said they heard shouting, detective, a man's voice, deep, rough, but they couldn't see anyone. Claire nodded slowly. Get forensics in here and keep the press out. Riverton doesn't need panic, at least not yet. The next morning, news spread like wildfire. Riverton hadn't seen a murder in years. In the diner downtown, whispers filled the air. Everyone had a theory. Some said it was a robbery gone wrong. Others believed Angela had discovered something she wasn't supposed to. That same day, Claire walked into the Parker residence again, this time in daylight. The blood had been cleaned, but the silence lingered. She wandered into Angela's study. On the desk sat a half-burned candle, stacks of graded papers, and a leather journal. Inside the journal, Claire found notes. Names, dates, strange references to the river project, and whispers in City Hall. Her brow furrowed. What were you looking into, Angela? Later that afternoon, Claire visited Angela's colleagues at the high school. Most were shocked, some in tears, but one man caught Claire's attention, Ethan Cole, a mechanic who sometimes helped Angela with odd jobs. His eyes darted nervously as he answered questions. I didn't know much. He stammered. Angela was kind to me, sure, but she started asking questions about things she shouldn't. About money, about people in town. I told her to drop it. Guess she didn't listen. Claire studied him. Why would a schoolteacher dig into town politics? Ethan shrugged. Ask the mayor, or maybe the police chief. Angela wasn't stupid. She knew Riverton had secrets. That night, Claire sat in her office at the precinct. Rain hammered against the windows as she flipped through Angela's journal again. One name appeared more than once, Mayor Charles Whitman. Beside his name were notes about funding, construction, and the word cover-up written in bold strokes. Claire leaned back in her chair, uneasy. Whitman was powerful, respected, untouchable, but if Angela had discovered something about him, her phone buzzed. It was Ramirez. Detective, we've got something. Prints on the knife. Claire straightened. Who's Ethan Cole's? The next morning, Ethan was brought into the interrogation room. He sat hunched at the table, his hands trembling. Claire entered slowly, setting Angela's journal in front of him. Ethan, your prints are on the murder weapon. You want to explain that? His eyes widened. I didn't kill her, I swear. I fixed her sink last week. Maybe I touched the knife then, but I didn't hurt her. Claire's tone was calm, steady. Then why were you so nervous yesterday? Because I know how this town works. He shot back, voice cracking. When something bad happens, they always find someone to blame, and I'm the easiest target. Claire studied him. Who's they, Ethan? He looked down, silent for a long moment, then whispered, the ones running this town. The ones who don't want their secrets out. That night, Claire drove past the riverfront where an abandoned warehouse loomed. She had heard whispers from informants that shipments came in late at night. Shipments not listed on any manifest. As she watched from her car, 2 black SUVs pulled up. Men in suits stepped out, carrying crates into the warehouse. No lights, no records, no reason. Claire's instinct screamed. She grabbed her camera, snapping photos from the shadows. When one of the men turned toward her, she ducked, heart pounding, but not before she caught sight of his face. It was Chief of Police Grant Mason. The realization hit her like ice. If the police chief was involved, this ran deeper than she imagined. Angela must have found evidence of whatever operation they were hiding, and she paid with her life. Back at her apartment, Claire pinned photos and notes onto her wall, connecting Angela's journal entries with the people she had seen at the warehouse. A web of corruption spread before her eyes. The mayor, the police chief, and businessmen with too much money flowing through their hands. The phone rang suddenly, shattering the silence. Claire answered. A low voice crackled through the line. "Stop digging, detective, or you'll end up like her." The call ended. Claire stood frozen, the dial tone echoing in her ear. Someone was watching her. Someone knew she was close. The next morning, Claire visited Angela's sister, Laura, who was pale with grief but determined. "Angela told me she was scared," Laura said softly. "She said she found something that could destroy lives. She wanted to make copies of it, keep it safe, but I don't know if she ever did." Claire leaned in. "Did she give you anything? Papers? A USB drive?" Laura shook her head. "No, but she mentioned the old cabin by the river, said she might hide things there." Claire felt her pulse quicken. That cabin had been abandoned for years. Late that evening, Claire drove to the cabin. The woods loomed dark and silent, and the rain had turned the path to mud. Inside, dust and cobwebs hung heavy. She searched every corner until her flashlight caught a loose floorboard. Beneath it lay a small metal box. Inside the box were documents, receipts, and photos. Proof of illegal shipments, falsified budgets, and names linking Riverton's most powerful men to crime. Angela had gathered it all. Claire whispered, "This is it. This is why she died." But as she held the box, a creak sounded behind her. She spun around, hand on her gun. A shadow moved in the doorway. The creak of the doorway echoed through the cabin. Detective Claire Donovan tightened her grip on her weapon, flashlight cutting through the dust-filled air. A tall figure stepped inside. Rainwater dripped from his coat. His face was partly hidden under a hat, but when he looked up, the dim beam revealed him. It was Ethan Cole. Claire lowered her gun slightly, but not completely. "You followed me?" she asked, her voice firm. Ethan raised his hands. "I'm not here to hurt you, I swear. I figured you'd come here. Angela mentioned this place once. I thought maybe she left something behind. Guess I was right." Claire studied him closely. His eyes weren't cold or threatening. They were desperate. "If you knew this place, then maybe others know too. Did anyone see you come here?" "I don't think so," Ethan replied. "But if they're watching you, then maybe they're watching me too." Claire motioned to the box of evidence in her hand. "This is what Angela died for. Enough to bring down the mayor, the chief of police, and half the businessmen in Riverton." Ethan exhaled sharply. "Then you need to get that out of town before it's too late." Back in her apartment, Claire spread the contents of the box across her kitchen table. Receipts, photos, signed contracts, even offshore bank records. It was a gold mine of corruption, but it was also a death sentence if the wrong people knew she had it. Her phone buzzed again, another blocked number. She hesitated, then answered. "Detective Donovan." The same low voice said, "You were warned. Put it back. Walk away. This isn't your fight." Claire's jaw tightened. "You murdered Angela Parker, and now you're threatening me. I don't walk away." Silence on the other end. Then a chilling laugh, "Then say your goodbyes." The call cut off. The following morning, Claire met with Laura Parker to reassure her. Laura looked exhausted, her grief deepening into anger. "They can't get away with this," Laura whispered. Angela trusted people. She believed truth mattered, and they silenced her for it. "Please, detective, don't let them bury this." Claire placed a hand on hers. "I won't, but I need you to stay safe. Don't talk to anyone about the cabin or what we found. Not a soul." Laura nodded, but her eyes betrayed fear. That night, Claire decided to confront the most dangerous name in Angela's notes, Mayor Charles Whitman. She arranged a meeting under the guise of discussing town security. The mayor's office was warm, filled with expensive wood and framed photographs of ribbon cutting ceremonies. Whitman sat behind his desk, smiling with the polished charm of a career politician. "Detective Donovan," he said smoothly. "Always a pleasure. What brings you here at this hour?" Claire studied him, her every instinct on high alert. "I'm investigating Angela Parker's murder. Her notes mention you several times. Care to explain why a schoolteacher would be looking into your finances?" Whitman chuckled, shaking his head. Angela was a good woman, but troubled. She had wild theories, paranoid ideas. Surely you don't take them seriously. Claire leaned forward, eyes locked on his. "I have documents, proof, fraud, money laundering, illegal shipments through the riverfront. Your name is all over them." For a moment, the mayor's smile faltered, but then it returned, colder this time. "Careful, detective. Accusations like that could ruin a career. Yours, not mine." Claire stood. "We'll see." As she left his office, her gut twisted. He wasn't rattled enough, which meant he was confident. Too confident. Hours later, as she drove home, headlights appeared suddenly in her rearview mirror. A black SUV followed her, closing in. Claire's pulse spiked. She turned sharply onto side streets, but the SUV stayed with her. Finally, she swerved into an abandoned gas station lot. The SUV stopped at the entrance. For a tense moment, no one moved. Then, slowly, it backed away and disappeared into the night. Claire sat in her car, gripping the wheel tightly. There was no doubt now. They wanted her gone. The next day, she decided to loop in someone she could trust outside Riverton. She contacted an old friend, Agent Marcus Hale of the FBI. Meeting him in a quiet diner out of town, she slid the box of documents across the table. "Angela Parker collected this. It ties Riverton's leadership to organized crime. I need federal backup before they bury me with her." Marcus flipped through the files, his face hardening. "Jesus, Claire, this isn't small-time corruption. This is millions of dollars, drugs, weapons. They're using Riverton as a hub." He looked up at her, serious. "We'll open an investigation, but until then, you need to be careful. They'll come for you harder now." When Claire returned to Riverton, she sensed something was off. Her apartment door was ajar. She drew her weapon, stepped inside. Papers scattered across the floor, the wall map ripped down. Someone had been here. On the table lay a single note written in thick black ink. "We warned you. Next time, it's final." Claire clenched her fists. Fear pressed at her chest, but rage burned hotter. "Not on my watch," she muttered. 2 nights later, word came from Ramirez. He had been monitoring shipments quietly. "Detective," he said over the phone, "there's movement at the riverfront tonight. Bigger than usual. Looks like Whitman and Chief Mason are both gonna be there." Claire knew this was the chance, the only chance to catch them in the act. She alerted Marcus and the FBI team, but they needed time to move in. For now, it was just her and Ramirez. The riverfront was cloaked in mist and moonlight. The warehouse buzzed with activity. Trucks lined up as men carried crates inside. Whitman's black limousine gleamed under the floodlights. Chief Mason barked orders like a general. From the shadows, Claire snapped photos, her camera clicking softly. Ramirez whispered, "This is insane. Half the town's leadership is here." Suddenly, a guard's flashlight swept across their hiding spot. "Hey," the man shouted. "Run." Claire ordered. They bolted, bullets cracking through the night as armed guards pursued. Claire ducked behind a stack of crates, returning fire just enough to cover Ramirez. Adrenaline surged. The operation was exposed now. There was no going back. Then, a roar of engines. Black SUV sped into the lot, not for Claire, but against the guards. The FBI? Marcus Hale stepped out, armed agents flooding the area. Federal agents, drop your weapons. Chaos erupted. Men scattered. Crates smashed open to reveal guns, drugs, cash. Whitman tried to slip into his limo, but Claire intercepted him, gun drawn. "It's over, Mayor," she said, her voice steel. Whitman sneered. "You think this ends with me? You have no idea how deep this goes." "Maybe not." Claire replied, cuffing him, "But tonight it ends here." Chief Mason tried to fight, but Ramirez tackled him to the ground. One by one, The empire Angela Pucker had uncovered crumbled. Days later, Riverton was in shock. The mayor, the police chief, and half a dozen businessmen were indicted. The FBI seized millions in illegal assets. The town was left shaken but free from the shadows that had ruled it. At Angela Pucker's grave, Claire stood silently, a hand resting on the headstone. Laura approached, tears in her eyes. "You did it," Laura whispered. Claire nodded softly. "No, Angela did. She found the truth. I just made sure it saw the light." Laura managed a small smile through her grief. She'd be proud. As Claire walked back to her car, the sun broke through the clouds for the first time in weeks. The town still had scars, but healing had begun, and in her heart, Claire knew the fight was far from over. Shadows always linger, but as long as she was breathing, Riverton would never face them alone again.